November 611 Victor Golf was not a loss of pressurization. Part 2, I got a lot of comments and questions off that last video. The video did very well, and I read every single one of your comments. I'm going to go through and address several of those things. I've got some new information for you to shed some additional light. We're going to take that methodically, step by step, and this is going to be a very short video, but this is an update. I got some additional information I'm going to share with you about this fascinating crash and what I think actually caused it. It was not a loss of pressurization. Let's talk about pressurization. Loss of pressurization comes in 3 forms: slow, rapid, and explosive. A slow leak is like a slow leak tire on your car, a tire that's slowly going flat. That's a leak. A rapid decompression means that all the air goes out of the cabin very quickly, but it doesn't blow the cabin apart. An explosive decompression means that a piece of the cabin actually blows apart, blows a hole in it, and the cabin or structure, aircraft structure, becomes compromised. It's actually an explosion, and you will see damage. You'll actually see a hole. The Hawaiian airplane, that was an explosive decompression and blew the top off of that airplane. Our situation here with this citation, first of all, the citation was not an encore. I'm going to give you the 3 versions of the Citation 5. It first came out as a 5, then an Ultra, and then an Encore. Here's the graph on the screen right now showing the iterations. This was a very early 5, serial number 91, very early in the production. It was not an Ultra. It was not an Encore. Serial number 91. This particular owner has only owned this thing since April of this year. Consequently, this was his daughter's very first flight on this. Actually, her second. They flew up to pick her up for this vacation in North Carolina. They made the round trip up there and back, but she would have sat in the back and everything was fine. She was not on a first-name basis with Jeff, the pilot, necessarily. Probably had never met him. This was her first experience. Jeff went back. Look at the flight aware data right here. Jeff went back to pick them up. His job was to pick her up in Elizabethton and take her back home again. So this was going to be their second trip on this airplane. Now let's talk about the daughter. She was not really a blood daughter. This was their adopted daughter. They adopted her about 9 years ago after their daughter got killed in a tragic scuba accident. They're not related to them on a blood basis in any way. Consequently, she did not grow up in an aviation family, flying airplanes. Her dad was not the pilot. I don't think that she had any previous aviation interest or experience. What the connection is and how they found each other, I don't know. But this is their second trip on a brand new airplane. The Citation 5 is a very early airplane, probably not worth a lot in the used market. I'm guessing that this airplane probably went for around $1.5 million at the most, depending on airframe and engine time. We don't know the answer to that. In the Citation 5, there are several alert levels. First of all, when the cabin altitude gets to 10,000 feet, it's going to turn on a red annunciator light. It's also going to turn on a master warning. 2 levels in the Citation. There's a master caution and a master warning. When this master warning comes on, it's red and it flashes. Cabin altitude 10,000 is definitely a master warning, and it's going to flash. When the cabin gets up a little bit higher, the masks are going to drop. And then when the cabin altitude gets to 14,000 feet, emergency pressurization is going to come on automatically. You can't stop it. The cabin pressure controller is always set to auto. He would have landed the airplane, left it in auto. On these Citations, I fly these things. We don't ever take it out of the normal position. That's the position it's in. This airplane would have had emergency pressurization that came on at 14. Now let's talk about Jeff. Jeff is a very accomplished retired Southwest pilot. He was known at Southwest. I got more calls and emails about the level of quality of this guy than I have ever gotten. This guy was a safety guru. He was a pressurization expert. He was a pressurization oxygen hypoxia instructor. He knew this whole thing. There is no way that this was a slow leak insidious. He would have to blow right past all 3 warnings and continue to climb for this to have been an insidious one. If it was up at flight level 280 when this thing happened and it was a rapid one, he had a mask on. Being at 280 is not crazy high. He would have had plenty of time to get a mask on if it was rapid. I have eliminated both slow and rapid. We know for sure he leveled off. I'm going to listen to the AOPA tape here. AOPA, Dick McSpadden, says that this airplane climbed straight to flight level 340. Not true. Let's listen to Dick McSpadden.
It's a curious profile on the aircraft. We know that it took off out of Elizabethton and it climbed up to flight level 340 where it leveled off.
Okay, here's what it really did. It climbed up to 230, and they had a conversation. It leveled off for about 70 seconds at flight level 230. Then he got a frequency change, a new altitude he climbed. The last communication was him climbing up above 270 was the last time he got a readback. They changed a few things. They gave him a new altitude. They altered it, all that kind of thing. Ultimately, flight level 340 got set in the altitude window. It was armed, and up they went to 340. Jeff passed out due to a medical event of some kind at around 28,000 feet within 15 minutes of takeoff. So the airplane climbed right on up and leveled off at 230. I've already showed that flight path. I'll show it to you again here. From there, it followed the Victor Airway routing that it had going into Long Island. It went to Sardi, then to CCC, then to the airport. After the airport, it dropped into heading hold, and it's off to the races. Now, whoo! We got to talk about the F-16s. How many F-16s get scrambled for this thing? Well, a total of 6. They come in pairs. They came from 3 different bases, and they knew that these F-16s were going to scramble when the airplane was still northeastbound. The F-16s were actually below the airplane and in a position, I'm not sure how many or who joined up first. The F-16s were 10,000 feet below it with the citation in sight. When the airplane was southwest bound, still a little bit northeast of Baltimore, the first pair of F-16s got on scene. They were ordered not to take any action, don't approach it, stay behind where nobody could see. At that point, they didn't know if it was a terrorist or what it was. The F-16s stayed behind until they got clear of the D.C. area. There was no reason to go supersonic. They were authorized to go into burner and exceed the speed of sound. Only one guy did it. I found out who that guy is. He was authorized to do it, so he was legal, but it was not necessary. They had already caught the airplane. He wanted to go supersonic over DC so he could make a boom. He's going to get a book deal. None of the other 5 went supersonic. Only one guy did. What's his reason? Because he wanted to, and that's all it is. Meanwhile, on the ground, ATC had already ground stopped everything when this thing went nordo. The entire east coast of the country, all arrivals and departures were stopped. It virtually paralleled and mirrored a 9/11 feeling. I talked to a lot of controllers who said, we don't know what's going on. All we know is no more airplanes. Don't launch any. Don't accept any. Keep everybody out of the airspace. Keep everybody down. Don't launch anybody. Nobody told them what was going on. It was a complete ground stop until they figured out what was going on and if this airplane was a terrorist thing or what it was. The F-16s were in position. They were prepared to shoot it down if necessary. The flares on board the airplane were used to try to get the attention of the pilot. Only one airplane shot flares, but several airplanes got a good look at the pilot slumped over in the seat. The windows were not fogged over. The window shades in back of the airplane were definitely drawn. Let's listen to this.
The fighter pilots reported the passenger window shades were down. The fighter pilots reported the passenger window shades were down.
In the back of the airplane is the mom, the 2-year-old baby, and the nanny. They're in the back. Here's a picture of the club seating in the back. The Citation 5 could either have club seating all the way in back or it could have mid-club seating. In any case, it's very common to have the window shades down. I'm going to tell you a quick story about my early days of citation training. I trained a guy. I first became a citation pilot and a single pilot in citation in the mid-90s. One time I had to train a guy for his type rating, and we went down to Jimmy Watkins in Florida to do the to do the check ride for this guy that I had to train. We went down there. That's when I first met Jimmy Watkins. Jimmy Watkins is the guy that owned the Learjet and Sunjet, the operation that killed Payne Stewart. Same guy. I met Jimmy and I saw that same Learjet just a few years before the Payne Stewart crash. Now, guess what? In accomplishment of training this other guy, we had to do an emergency descent for training. So what did we do? When I was out training this guy, we had the citation up at flight level 280. I checked in with center. We got everything good. We were on an IFR flight plan. I asked permission for an emergency descent. I hadn't done one from that high before, but I wanted to put the boards out, masks on, and dump the cabin and see what would happen. Day VFR, ATC approved our descent. Flight level 280, pilot's discretion, descend and maintain 10,000. Down we go. They cleared the airspace. I told them we're going to come down like a box of rocks with the boards out and in a slight left-hand turn to get off the airway. They said approved. What we did is we got our oxygen masks on, 100%, started breathing. We got pre-breathed, totally good on our quick down oxygen masks. They were on, and then I reached over and hit the dump switch. Guess what happened? It looked like a bomb went off in that airplane. Immediately, a full white vapor inside the airplane, all windows fogged over like crazy. We closed the throttle, speed brakes out, nose down. We had a couple towels out. We started wiping down the windows. We started wiping down the altimeter and the gauges on the cockpit. Everything went frosty. Not cold frosty, just foggy frosty all the way down. It took us several minutes. We leveled off at 10,000 feet. Everything was good. It took us several minutes of running full defrost and rain valves open and everything that we could do to get enough defrost up on the window where we could eventually see land. We flew around for several minutes trying to get the windshields clear enough to land. I won't ever do that again, and I don't recommend that you do that. But if you want to go out and replicate it in your airplane and get ATC approval and you're out in clear airspace and you want to try it, there's nothing you can hit, that's what's going to happen. Whenever you do a rapid decompression from at least 280, I can tell you firsthand what's going to happen, and that's easy replicatable. If you want to see it, I don't recommend it. I'm not telling you to go do that. I'm just telling you, if you have a cabin leak from that high, everything's going to go foggy, and it's almost impossible to get it unfogged, even once you get down lower into warm air. Now, we got to talk about some medical stuff here next. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV, and also I stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night, so this gives me qualification. I got the same qualifications to be a doctor that Jennifer has to be in charge of the NTSB. It's an exact parallel situation, but let's talk about some medical stuff here. Unrelated, I can't talk about medical stuff because I can't spread any medical misinformation, but I'm going to tell you that the human body is made up of blood and oxygen, and everything has to work right to occur here. What happens to a pilot's body as he ascends in an airplane? I'm going to give you some stuff on the screen here, but this is a combination of what a pilot could be experiencing. It's possible: thrombosis, micro blood clotting, blood vessel inflammation, heart inflammation, and testosterone. Those things go together. Those things go together to put a pilot on the edge of his body actually shutting down. The two triggers that can cause a pilot to go over the edge and make him actually shut down are adrenaline, which is a secretion that occurs inside the body, adrenaline, and also a change in cabin altitude. Remember, a beer at sea level is not a big deal. A beer at 8,000 feet becomes a big deal. So a change in altitude has a pronounced effect on the human body and how it reacts. Adrenaline and lack of oxygen, a slight hypoxia once you're up high aggravates everything. These people who are on the edge and already have a pre-existing condition of some kind could be triggered up over the edge, and that could be why we're seeing so many pilots these days who are having medical emergencies in flight. The cabin gets up to the certain level, and the inflammation, clotting, swelling that is already present slightly inside their bodies gets aggravated. Am I trying to tell you anything? No, I am not. I'm not spreading any medical misinformation. I'm just telling you how the human body works. In this case, for whatever reason, Jeff's body endured a sudden shutdown because of something. What was the original trigger for that? I'm not going to say. I'm not going to comment. You leave it to your own opinion and whatever you want to do on that. This is the situation. It was definitely not an aircraft system related. It could not have been aircraft system related. This was somehow related to Jeff's body that shut down. He slumped over. Everybody was asleep in the back of the airplane. Here's a quote from somebody else that I saw online talking about being tired and being a mom in the back of that airplane. Of course, you're going to lower the window shades. You're going to go to sleep. This airplane, those people never had any kind of an indication that there was any kind of a problem. Now, I want you to know that coming up, I got to get this video up and on the air, but I want you to know that coming up in a couple days is my birthday. If you want to see the video about where we're going in Las Vegas in the next couple days, that's great. If you have a chance to support me and my effort, here's my screenshot for that. Airborne Animal Rescue is me. I'm basically one guy with a cell phone and a banjo if you'd like to support me. And also, I want you to know that it's possible. I'm thinking about running for president. Wouldn't that be fun? I think if it comes down to Biden versus Trump, I think I'm going to run for president. I think I would have to win. The deal would be that we've got two candidates so terrible that it even makes Dan look good. Can that be possible? Two candidates so terrible that they could even make me look good. And in light of that, I've come up with a couple of campaign slogans for all three of us. I've sat around and developed this a little bit. The campaign slogan I see for Joe is going to be vote for Joe. It's a no-brainer. Or how about this one for Trump? Vote for Trump, a man of convictions. And the one I came up for myself, if I end up running for president, is going to be vote for Dan. I left it kind of simple because that's as best as I could do on short notice. I hope you'll support me. Here's a couple ways to do it. Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, or CashAPP. These videos take a tremendous amount of time. I hope you appreciated the information and the insinuation that I've given you on what my opinion is on some of this stuff and what's really going on behind the scenes. I'm going to get this video up and on the air, and I do appreciate your support and your watching. I got to get out of here for my tiny little itty-bitty fledgling YouTube channel, Dan Gryder. Probable cause.